Well, hello. Welcome to my little world. So, what exactly is a Saturn return, and why are we talking about it today? So, that's what we're going to get into in this video. But before we do, let me back up a little bit. If you don't know me, I'm Kelly. Kelly with an I. And I'm going to be 61 years old next week. Whoop! And I've been widowed for almost 10 years. God, where does the time go? Whoo! I am responsible for a large home and property with the help of some of my grown-up kids who also live with me. And it's an old homestead nursery situation that on about 5 acres in a really wonderful neighborhood. I've got terrific neighbors. But after several years, yeah, I'm reading my notes because I have ADD, as you'll soon discover. And if I don't have notes keeping me on track, we're going to be all over the place. Okay, so after several years of trying my hand at businesses and working part-time, etc., I wasn't making it. It was not working for me. So I had to go back to work full-time. Got a job at a doctor's office, working for a medical corporation. And at the time, I thought that was what I needed at the time. That was the ticket. But after 2 years now, I find myself just completely overwhelmed, totally overrun with debt, taxes, property management, responsibilities, maintenance, none of which I'm equipped to handle either physically, mentally, financially. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're all just working and we don't have time to be home and do anything, right? Good luck just, you know how it is. You know, I'm not complaining because everybody that works full-time has the same thing. You know, I used to say, I can't even get my dishes done, or I got to go to work on Monday and I'm exhausted from the weekend and I can't fit my life in and all this. And everybody's just like, welcome to the human race. Like, we all have to do that. But after a couple years of really enjoying the full-time pay and the benefits, I mean, having health insurance is pretty sweet. It's just, my life is getting away from me and it's not fun. So, and at the same time that sorry, I got to look at my notes here. So somewhere along the way, I became dissatisfied with working this amount of hours and the toxic office environment and, you know, just the BS that you put up with. And I was starting to see why it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. You know, it wasn't all that it was cracked up to be. Yeah, it's great to have all the benefits, but yeah, there was some little chinks in the armor, and I'm like, this is really not all that great. But what am I going to do? I'm in this position. I can't get out of it, and I just wasn't happy. So the turning point came when I was able to start I found out when I turned 60 that I could draw my husband's Social Security as a widow. And that was the turning point for me. When I started to draw that, everything changed. Financially it changed, and I began to see where, I did all the numbers over and over. And of course, if you make too much, you got to pay it back, which is what happened to me. I had to pay 2 checks back because I made so much. And I'm like, why am I doing this? This doesn't even make sense. I could work half as much and still have the same amount of money. Like, what's going on? Anyway, we'll talk about the math later in a different video because it's kind of irrelevant. But doing the math, I saw, well, this isn't going to work. And at the same time that I was looking at the practicalities of it, I realized, well, this is going to cost me more money and more of my life force to stay here than it is to leave. So it doesn't make sense to stay full time. But at the same time that was going on, for quite a while, I had this, just these longings to go back to a simpler life, like what I used to live. I used to live a life that was a lot more in alignment with who I am and what my values and my priorities are. You know, a life that is much more in tune with the earth and the rhythms and the cycles of nature, my own circadian rhythms, family, and living a natural life and close to the land and eating natural food and just doing a lot of homesteady, homemade things. You know, I love to dry clothes by the wood stove and chop firewood and bake sourdough bread and make soap and make my own sauerkraut and blah, blah, blah. All the things, right? Make my own face lotions. And so I really had a longing to just return to that. Like, how am I going to get out of this corporate, artificial, toxic, draining, soul deadening life? And how am I going to get back to living a natural, healthy life in alignment? But see, when I discovered that I could go part-time and make the same amount of money, that's when my wheels started turning. And my daughter was visiting one time, and I was telling her about all the stuff that was happening. I said, remember when you guys were little and I wanted to come home so bad, and then we moved and I got to live that little fantasy, my little house in the prairie life that I wanted. I said, remember when that happened? I told her, I'm having the same desires and the same longings, the same feelings as I was back then. And I said, it's kind of funny because I just happened to be working for the same company that I was way back then too. And so she said, well, that sounds like some kind of Saturn return or something, right? And, you know, I'm not really up on astrology. I don't know that much about astrology. It's kind of a joke around our house because everybody is so, we all know our birth signs and our sun, moon, and rising. And we laugh. It's a family joke because all of us are so spot on when it comes to our astrological signs. We're just like, oh yeah, you're such a Gemini, or oh yeah, that's what the Aries do, right? I'm an Aries with Scorpio rising, which is why I'm so weird. But it's a family joke, and that's kind of about all as far as we get with astrology. So I looked up what a Saturn return is just out of curiosity, and I was kind of blown away, and I have a little bit on my notes to jog my memory here. But a Saturn return, this is my version of it, not Google's version of it. A Saturn return is when basically, like how all the planets were lined up when you were born, about every 27 to 30 years, they line up that way again. And apparently the effect that it has on you is just a reevaluation of who you really are. You started off on this alignment, and about 27 to 30 years later, you kind of start, that alignment happens again. And you start going, you reevaluate. Is this who I am? Am I on the right track? Is this the life that I'm supposed to be living? That kind of thing. So now, you know, it happens 27 to 30 years later. So when I discovered that, my daughter plugged in my numbers into Google or AI or whatever it is. And she said, well, your first one was in 1994. And I said, oh, that makes sense because that's the year that I quit that job and we moved. And I went and lived that little house in the prairie life that I wanted so badly. I think I was meant to be a hobbit, actually. But, and she said, well, guess when your second one is? And I said, when? And she goes, right now. And it ends in February, which was, at the time of this recording, that was last month. So it all makes sense. No wonder. No wonder I have to go back and find myself again. I don't think they're midlife crises. I think they're Saturn returns. Like, what the heck? So that's where I'm at. And so I was really excited to just, right from the inception of this plan, I'm gonna document it and film it. And how I leave the 9-to-5 corporate world, the toxic office environment. Do you know you can't even, it's like little things. Like, we have a microwave in the break room, and every day I have to heat my food with a microwave. I don't want to use a microwave. But if I don't do that, what am I going to do? Eat salads every day? Like, little things like that just piss me off. But I wanted to film this right from the get-go. Before I even change or reduce my hours or quit or whatever I'm going to do, I wanted to film it right from the beginning and document the whole journey. So this is a vlog. I don't consider this a YouTube channel. It's a vlog. because I am not an influencer by any stretch of the imagination. And I am not a techie person. And I don't know how to edit. And I don't know how to do all the things. So bear with me because I'm going to learn. You can learn along with me. And you're going to see all my mistakes that I make along the way as I try to get back to a natural, primal, authentic life. Yay, we all get to learn from my mistakes. How cool is that? But one of the things that I wanted to, we're going to keep it real around here. I don't know how to do the YouTube thing. You know what? I had a really good video filmed. I was ready to load it, and I let my cousin see it because he's a pro at YouTube. He's got an awesome channel. It's called Soggy Rods. If you want to look him up, it's about fishing. So I said, what do you think? I'm going to post my first one. And he's like, nah, you can't do it. You got background music playing and you'll get docked for, you'll get taken down for that. And I never even thought about it. I was like, shoot. He was right. So I had to erase it and redo it. So just come along with me. And this is the only time you're going to hear me say, don't forget to like and subscribe, because I'm not going to do that. Everybody knows that. Everybody says that in every video. You're a grown-up. You get it. That's the only time you're going to hear me say it. But I'm really excited to start filming how I get out of the office, what my life looks like, and what does reality look like compared to my plans on paper, because they can be very different sometimes. And we're going to talk about cool stuff, the coolest stuff, a lot of it. Getting back to nature, gardening, permaculture, healthy aging. Notice I didn't say anti-aging because that's not a thing. Healthy aging. And some health and beauty things along the way. You know, people are always asking me about my hair and all the things like that. So we'll get into stuff like that. Making your own herbal products, growing your herbs, flower essences. We'll talk about that. And also, one of the things I really want to touch on that's a passion for me is end-of-life planning. Because I'm a certified death doula, and I don't participate in that right now because I work full-time. Who's got time for that? But we're going to talk about a lot of that because I really want to help people to create the best life experience. But in order to do that, you have to cultivate a healthy relationship with death. So I'm all about that. We'll hear about that. I'm just going to get into so many things. It's going to be so fun. It's going to be interesting, never boring, hopefully entertaining. So next time, I kind of would like to take everybody on a tour of the yard and the greenhouse. We have a flower farm that we had it for a few years and it kind of fell by the wayside. But we're resurrecting that this year. And I just want to show you the things that work, and then also show you the things that are a flop that don't work. And we can learn together, right? So I'm super excited. And if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to say, hey, why did you ever talk about this? Are you going to talk about that? That'd be great. I would love to hear because, hey, we got a lot of ground to cover. And you're going to see my videos get better over time as I learn to edit and I learn to make the lighting better and all the things. But for now, we're keeping it real. I'm not into all this fake stuff. I'm never going to use AI. Don't even go there. Yeah, we're keeping it real here. Okay, so let's go. I can't wait to see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye.